Hello everybody and welcome back to our stream. Today it's Monday, so this means that today we're gonna build our API further. We have an eShop API, we've already started it. We have 3 episodes are behind of us, so we still have a lot to do. Let me just check if everything is okay. Can you please let me know in the chat if you hear me well, if the sound is okay? Maybe let me know if the background music is too loud or not. That would be important, because it's really important that you would understand me, I guess. And as usual, please feel free to just write in the chat. Just it's really important to have a conversation here and to try to learn it from each other. Both I am here to learn something, but I also hope that you will be able to learn something from me. Let's get started. It's actually, I didn't open this solution from last time, so it was 1 week ago. I have to go kind of a little bit through it to see exactly what do we need to do. So we have here this products controller, I guess, that handles products, and we have implemented also a repository for our products, and of course the DB context. So this means that we actually write our products right now to the database. And if we go maybe to the database, let me real quick try to open SQL Server Object Explorer, and hopefully I'll remember the database where I created the database. It's either the first or the second. It's this one, so that should be it. And if we have here, we have tables. I would expect that we have the products and we have the supplier. This is because each product has also a supplier. So if we look through the columns here, we see that we have a foreign key for the supplier, which is expected. And then for the supplier itself, what do we have here is we have the name, description, and the website. But for now we didn't really work a lot with suppliers, so we didn't supply values for them. If we right click here and let's go here on view code. Let me make this just like that. Okay, so here we can see exactly what has been run with this create table, all the things that have been created for us. So this is according to the migrations that we had, so that's expected and okay. And also if we go here and view data, we see that we actually have a product. Oh no, we don't have a product here right now. So yeah, that's strange. Let's test our API then. Let's start by testing it. So yeah, let me close this right now. So let's run the API. Let's run the API and see if we can get to add a product, because it would be important that the product would be saved, so that we have products from now on, so that we don't have to really come back to creating products each time. Right now the application is starting. That should be okay right now. So if we go to Postman, I did some work with Postman these past days. So yeah, but I'm not sure exactly what. I think this was it. So let me run a get. Right now it would be important that we get a response and we don't have an error. And indeed we get 200 okay, which is expected, and we get an empty list. So this is not an error, it's just that we don't have any products right now. But then let me maybe go, because we should have created a product at a certain point, I guess. There are a lot of posts. Let me go to the body here and yeah, let's take this product and let's try to create it. So it would be a post to this exact API endpoint, and the body is already here, so we don't really need to post it once again. So it's we have a name, we have a description, we have a price for it, and we have a photo URL, which for right now is set to an empty string. That would be null. So let's see if the product gets created, and it's 201 created. Of course, for the supplier we have all the values set to null. That's expected, because yeah, we didn't provide any information for the supplier at all. And I guess maybe right now I have an idea what we actually want to do, because maybe we want to just expose a different endpoint for the suppliers, then that we get here not the entire supplier but only the supplier ID, and then that we maybe can get the supplier via a different API call. I don't know, would that make sense? That's something that we can definitely look into. So right now what I would suggest, let's just create a new product, and I need some ideas. What products do you want me to create? Please feel crazy and let me know via the chat. What product should I create right now? What product would you like to buy right now, so that we can create it in our API? I guess that would be a very nice thing to do. But until you come up with an idea, because I still want to create I guess one more product, so please feel free to just let me know what product should we create next. But what I can do right now, let's create a Samsung Galaxy. I don't even know exactly what model is the last one. Let's make it S10. Let's also have a description, and I don't know exactly what the price would be, but let's think it would be around, I don't know, 800. And we don't have a photo URL so far, of course, so let's also create this product. Let's now get it to see that we have, and right now we should have 2 products in our list, which is correct. So once again, what other product should we create? I need an idea for a product. I'm very bad at having ideas with creating dummy data. So what should I create right now? What product do we need in our eShop? What do you think that our customers would like to buy? And now I think that maybe when it comes to the idea of a front end for this API, maybe we'll go into Blazor and we'll create a Blazor front end. So a single page application written only in C# that would call this API and basically render a visual documentation of the API, like a real eShop. But that's kind of something for later maybe. So once again, I really need your help here. What product should I create? I really count on you guys. Don't be shy. Don't be shy, and please come up with an idea for a product that we will have to create. Okay. Let's then simply go further, and let's also create the counterpart of the Samsung device. But still, if you have ideas about products that we should create, then let me know. And that would be, of course, probably a little bit more expensive, so it would be, let's make it 900 and I don't know, 21. That should do it. And let's create this product. And we have a bad request. Okay, why was this a bad request? Provided model is not valid. Okay, so we have a name, we have a description, we have a price, and we have a photo URL. So why is this model bad? We have a price. That's something strange. Let's put a breakpoint. we should definitely see what happens here. So we are on the products controller and we want to create a new product. And here it is. This is the get all, this is the get product by ID, and this is the create product. So if we hit a breakpoint here and we'll try to create it, we should be able to see the model state of what we send in and maybe have an idea of what is not okay. So we get a product DTO. Let's first examine what do we really get here, and it seems that what we get here should be fine. So maybe I have a constraint on the name and it should have a certain length and it doesn't. But if we go through this here, we have this model state which is provided by ASP.NET Core directly. So if we go here, let's enlarge this, okay? And of course we have an error count of 1, so we have an error, that's for sure. And here values, and if we expand the result, name, so the name is not valid. The name of the product is not valid. Let's just continue right now. It will return a bad request once again. But if we go back then to the product itself, it should be to the product get DTO, sorry, to the product post DTO, because we post right now, of course. And here we see that the minimum length should be 10. Okay, let's make it. But I guess we have to stop debugging to make the changes and to be able to save it. So it would let's make it 5, because, well, if I want to add a product that has the name of iPhone 10, I guess that we should be allowed to do that actually. Don't you think the same? So let's try it again. Let's run the application one more time, and then let's see where we will go from there. Okay, let's try to do it again. So we have this product and we really want to create it. And right now we have 201 created, so also the new product was created, which is great. That's what we wanted from the first place. So let's also do the get. And right now we should have a list with our very nice first 3 products in our eShop. And these products are Dell XPS laptop, then we have the Samsung Galaxy S10 smartphone, and we have an iPhone 10 smartphone. So these are our first products in our eShop. I guess that this is a good start. So let's continue to build out our API. What I think right now we should maybe do is, right now we have here, if we go to our models here to the product, and we see that what we have here is this idea of we have the supplier ID and the supplier. And this is actually how we map a one-to-one relationship in the database using Entity Framework Core. So right now what we actually say is that okay, each product has exactly one supplier. So the supplier, we could say, belongs to the product. So this is essentially a one-to-one relationship. So I think maybe we should go just one step further in this episode and maybe investigate some other types of relationships that we can have in our databases. And I guess a very good place to start this is this customer. Because here we see that this customer, well, it has a name, of course, and that would be probably also, if we go here, that would be a different column in the database, and that would be also something like a one-to-one relationship. So yeah, we would have to maybe do a change and also add the name ID to the customer. But then what I wanted to point out here is that we have this collection of contact details. So if we go on contact detail, we see that each contact detail has a phone number, an email address, and a customer ID, which I guess should be fine. The whole idea is, at least the way I see this API right now, is that a customer could potentially have several different contact details. Maybe, I don't know, one for when he wants to have his products shipped at home, but maybe sometimes the customer wants to have the products shipped at his office, or maybe at his parents, whatever. So he should be able definitely to add different contact details to his customer, to his information, and maybe with each order to specify the contact details that should be used by that specific order. So that's the whole idea. So from this theory, so from this scenario, what we have here, of course, it seems to be a one-to-many relationship, because we have one customer, and this one customer has many contact details. But a contact detail would always belong only to one customer. So this is why I guess we have here a very specific case of one-to-many relationship, where we have one customer with several different contact details. So how do we model this in Entity Framework Core? It shouldn't be actually very complicated. We can do this by convention, and the idea is that what we need to do here is we have to also add the ID of the contact detail, I guess. So it would be public, it would be int contact detail ID. Okay, and then we have this navigation property is called, so which is actually an I collection, so a collection, a list if you want, of contact details. And then in contact detail, what we need to specify is this customer ID, I guess. And right now I guess that that should be actually I guess it should also have a navigation property back, so it would be public customer, and it would be called customer. And I guess that should be the setup that should expect Entity Framework when we want to map this type of relationship by convention. So based on the way that we design our properties, let's go through this once again. So we have a contact detail ID, and we have a list of contact details. So this actually tells us that we have one customer that should have an I collection of contact detail, which I guess should be okay. But just 1 second, what did I do here? What did I do here? Yeah, right now it should be fine. But then again, let me just clear a little bit things here. So if we think here, I guess we don't necessarily, or we won't necessarily need here this contact detail ID, because we have an I collection here. So I guess that that wouldn't be actually needed at all. So yeah, let's simply remove that. I guess we shouldn't need this contact detail ID at all in this case. In this case, it's enough that we say that hey, this customer should have many contact detail, and in contact detail we should say that this contact details belongs basically to a certain customer ID, and of course the entire customer entity that is behind this customer ID. So I guess that should actually do it for now for Entity Framework, and I guess that's okay for this stage. So we can just test it. So what should we do next? Let's see. Of course, our goal is to bring this whole idea of customer with all the customer detail collection into the database. So what would be the next step that we should do? What would be the next step? Do you have any ideas? What would you say? So if you would write right now your own API, so you wouldn't watch it, it's you that's writing. What's the next step that you think of doing right now? So after we have fixed the entities, we have created this this navigation properties that Entity Framework Core expects. But what should be our next step? Okay, I see that you are very shy right now. So let's proceed. The obvious next step would be that we would have to get this into the database, and for that we would of course need Entity Framework Core. We would need the Package Manager console, but before we run something here in the Package Manager console, what we need to do is go to the DB context. Where is it? Here is eShop DB context. Yeah, that is the DB context. And we should add the DB set of customer. So we would add a public DB set of customer, and we'll call it, of course, customers. And I guess that right now that should do it. So add migration, add customer to DB. We have also to specify the DAL, because this is where we have our things. And let's see. It builds right now. Build succeeded, and it should bring us up the migration class. And of course, let's just a little bit navigate through this add customer to DB migration. So what we do is we create a table for the name, because the customer has a name, and of course we need this table. And here we have the ID, which is not nullable. This would be actually the primary key. It would have a first name, last name, and initials. What we also have here is some constraints of course, that the primary key is the ID. Then we create another table for customers, and here we see that we have this ID column, which would be also the primary key, I guess. Then we have this name ID, which basically navigates back to the name, because each customer should have a name. We have the SSN, or the social security number, and we have the username. But as you can see, we don't have here right now anything that seems to be related to our contact details, because of course that would have a total separate table. And when we ask for a customer from Entity Framework Core, it should basically do another call to the contact details table and get the appropriate contact details from there. So this is what I would expect. I don't say that it would really do it like that, so this is why we'll continue to build our feature today to make sure that everything would work as expected. But the constraints that we have on this table is, okay, right now we have a primary key, of course, which is the ID, but we see that we have a foreign key which actually belongs to the name. So this is how we reference a name to a customer. And then we have this final table, which is this contact detail. And here we see that we have an ID, which would be probably the primary key. We have a phone number, we have an email address, and we have a customer ID. And we see here that a contact details customer ID is the foreign key. So this is actually what happens when this is how basically Entity Framework Core would be able to map the contact details that we have in our table to a certain customer. They all should have the same customer ID. And then there is one important thing here. Of course, when we have this type of relationships, like even one-to-one or even one-to-many, a very important thing to think about is, okay, what happens when I delete, for instance, a customer? Should be the corresponding customer details be also deleted? Or maybe we want to keep them in a database. I guess these are different scenarios that are both or all valid depending on the business logic or the business need. But the idea is that we as developers, I guess we have we have a way to define a little bit how should we proceed when we want to delete a customer. And here we see that by default Entity Framework Core says that on delete. So when a customer gets deleted, what should we do? We should cascade the action to the constrained rows. So theoretically, I would say that a delete operation would cascade from the customer back to these contact details, and these contact details also should be deleted. So all contact details that belong to a customer should, I guess, be deleted. So that's what I would expect by reading through this migration class. And then we have, okay, Entity Framework also creates some indexes for us, which is okay, not a very bad thing. And down, of course, we don't do anything bad to we don't really want to drop tables or things like that. But if we will head to, then these options are basically added to the database. So yeah, I would say, I'm not sure if you have maybe a different opinion, but from what I read here in this migration class, I guess that that should actually do it. So that should actually implement this idea of customer in the database. So let's update the database. And it says build started, build succeeded, and it's done. So right now the database should be updated. Let's check that. So let's go to SQL Server Object Explorer. I'm not sure. Are you still able to see me? Okay. I guess so. Okay, so we have here our table right now. Let's do a refresh on this Twitch eShop. Where is the refresh? Here it is. Let's do a refresh and see that, okay, we have right now this customer detail, and if we look at the columns, we see that, okay, it has a foreign key that holds the customer ID to which it belongs. It holds a phone number, an email address, and of course we have the primary key of each contact detail. So this is okay. Then we have this customer, which has the columns ID and name ID, because we should be able to reference a name from a customer directly, because a name is an entity on its own as we defined it. Then we have the social security number and the username, which should be fine, I guess. And we have this name. So under this name table, what we have here? We have the primary key, which is also the ID. I keep pressing buttons here that I shouldn't press. I don't know what's wrong with me. Okay, then we have this first name, we have the last name, and we have the initials. So would look good for me, I guess. Okay, so right now we have made the changes that we need to our database to also have customers, or that we are able to work with customers. Of course, our end goal is to have at the end another API endpoint where we would be able to perform actions or to request actions on customers. So to achieve that, what would be the next step that you would take right now? Or what should we do next? What do you think that we should do next? Maybe have a drink? No, but really, what do you think would be the next step to do here? Just please feel free to join the discussion. Just let me know. What do you think that we should do right now as a next step? So we got everything that we need to the database, but what should we do right now? What should be our continuation? Okay, so of course, in order to be able to expose these customers or to work with customers in our API, we need to get them into the database or to get them out of the database. So in this case, we would also need a repository. Like we did for products, we see here that we have a products repository, but we see that this products repository implement an interface, which is a product repository, and we said that it's good. So this is where we should always define the interfaces, because they are contracts. We should define them at the domain level. So we have here this folder which is called interfaces. So I guess that this would be the place to add a new interface, and this interface would be called iCustomer repository. Now, of course, we create this as a class, but that is not a problem. You can just change that. That shouldn't be really a problem. So right now, I guess we can take some inspiration of this iProducts repository. So we would definitely need to get by ID, create, update, and delete. So this is of course something that we could, or that we would need to implement. But what we have to do right now is to do that. So we would have a task of what it would return, get all. It would return a list of customer, and it would be get all async. Let's see if everything is okay. Of course, we would also need to add the necessary references. If we go here, we add the domain models, and that should do it. Let's see, is this exactly? We returned here an IEnumerable. Yeah, I guess we should do that. So we should return an IEnumerable of customer, because we shouldn't make this too restrictive, only to list. Maybe we want to return a collection, whatever. Other types of IEnumerable, and then we would have a task of customer, and this would be get customer by ID async, and then we would have another task of customer that would be create customer async. Then we would have, I guess we returned bool for all the others. So yeah, for the update and delete we returned bool. So I guess we'll keep on doing that. So it would be task of bool. Here it would be update customer async. And it would be then finally, last but not least, another task of bool that would return, or that would be called, sorry, it doesn't return anything, it's an interface here, delete customer async. Okay, and that would do it for now. The next step, I guess we should think about is what do we need as incoming parameters to these methods. So we would definitely need here an ID, because if we want to get only one customer, we need an ID to be able to identify that customer, I guess. Then if we want to create a customer, what we would need to have here is simply a customer. So we just say to anybody that implements this interface, if you want to do that, just provide me a customer and I'll add it to the database. And then update customer async. Let me see, how did we do? We just passed in the updated product, so we will do exactly the same thing. We have here a customer, and it would be here, let's call this updated customer, so that everybody knows that what we should pass into this method should be a customer that represents an updated customer. And then delete async, I guess here it would be only the ID, int ID. Okay, but hello, thank you for joining, and thank you for writing in the chat. That's actually very nice. Okay, let's go one step further, and this is maybe a good spot to think a little bit about actually the code that we write and how we write it. Because what I see, for instance, if I go through these two repositories, we see here that I have basically get all products, get product by ID, create product, update product, and delete product. And of course this is everything about product. And if we go to customer repository, we see that we have get all async, get customer by ID async, create customer async, update customer async, and last but not least, delete customer async. So when I look into these two code files, I feel like this smells a little bit bad. Am I maybe wrong here, or am I too sensible to that? But you know that that's how what we call very often code smells. So it's actually when the code smells, it just feels that well, something might not be quite right here. And indeed, it's not really right, because when we look closer at these methods, we see that they actually they are meant to do exactly the same things. They are called just a little bit differently in order to represent here a product and here a customer, but essentially it's exactly the same logic behind, I would say. So yeah, we kind of repeat ourselves a lot, I would guess, and this is definitely a code smells. And you say, okay, write a generic repository. Generic repository will be a fit. And yeah, that's true. That's actually a very good idea. So let's see how we can make our code smell better. Using maybe I would say not a full-fledged generic repository, because I guess we won't work with specifications and things like that usually come along with a generic repository. But let's try maybe to implement a very simple one. So how would we do that? I guess the first thing what we should do here is this is the iCustomer repository, and this is the iProduct repository. Let's add a new class here, and this class let's make it an interface from the beginning, and we'll name it iRepository. And here, well, we will have to do some things here to make this this repository, or at least this interface, kind of like generic, I would say. So in this case, I would simply say that this is the interface iRepository, and what we need to provide is yeah, we would maybe need to make this generic. So we say that this would be an iRepository of T. And here maybe we can also go one step further and say that where T inherits from, I don't know, class new. But I guess that would really not be important right now, so we can leave this behind. But this is how we can constrain the types of T, but we haven't created specific types for our domain models. So we just say that this is right now an iRepository of T, and let's see how we can bring these methods that we have in these two repositories in this iRepository. And I would just copy paste them right now, because it doesn't really make sense to write them from scratch here and just to spend a lot of minutes just writing it from scratch. So what we will do here is that we will say when we return the list, it would be a task, it will return an IEnumerable of T. And then we'll see when we implement this repository, we'll actually specify what T actually means. We have to implement a system threading task. And instead of calling this method get all products async, because we don't know, right now we could be getting products, but maybe in a few seconds we'll be getting customers, so we don't know exactly what we get. In this case, we should simply take out the name of the entity from the method, and it would be then get all async. Now here, when we want to get one by ID, once again we return a task of T, not a task of product. And then here we can simply say it's not get product by ID, but it's get by ID async. And here we don't have a product ID, but just an ID, because it could be the ID of a customer. A few minutes later it could be the ID of a product, and so on. Now exactly, we have to do exactly the same things for all the other lines. We will have here, when we create something, it's not that we create a product, but we create a T. And as said, when we implement each repository, we will provide it will say exactly what T actually is. And in the case of this in the case of this of the product repository, T will be a product. In the case of a customer repository, T would be a customer. So yeah, let's continue. It would be this create product async. By the way, how do you like the background music? So it would be create not product but create async. You asked for background music, so here it is. So here for create, what we have to pass in is not a product but a T, and we'll call it in this case entity, because again we don't know what this T will be, or sometimes it will be a product, sometimes it will be something else. And then here task of bool, that actually remains the same. What we have here is updated or update product, just remove the product from the naming of this method. And what we have here is once again a T, and in this case the T would be an updated entity. And last but not least, we have also a task of bool, which is delete async. So we'll remove the product, and here once again what we need to have is an ID, because once again sometimes we will have a product ID, sometimes we will have a customer ID, and probably later when we work on our API at a certain point, this would be maybe a shopping cart ID or an order ID and things like that. So yeah, right now we basically did implement this this type of base repository, and now let's go to each of these repositories and see how we can adapt them. Of course, this will music is nice. Okay, I'm glad you like it. So of course this will break some things in our repositories that we've already implemented, meaning in the product repository, but I guess we'll go there and fix them. So what we can say here is that this iProduct repository, it would be an iProduct repository, and let's make it of product. And this should or let's also make it as T. And here we can simply say that but no, because here this should be a product, I guess. And this inherits I repository. Let me, it should be the repository of T. Yeah, and that should do it, I guess. But here the product in products repository product, that's not what I would expect here. And here it would be product. I would expect this to be colored in green. Why is this not colored in green? Because this would be definitely an iRepository of product, because this is a very, so this is the repository that handles products. That's for sure. And then of course, why don't we have an error here? Because we should have an error, because iRepository is right now not really implemented here in this repository products. Yeah, we don't. Let's see, iProduct repository. Do you have any idea? Let's make this with T. But no, here it should be product. Let's go like this. Let's go further like this, and we'll see then later what happens. And the idea is that what we should do right now, or what we can do right now, is simply delete everything. Because right now, theoretically, if we have this iProduct repository inherit this iRepository that was the generic one, and we pass in the product, then in this case, but yeah, let's also do it generic. I guess it should be generic, and here it should be iRepository. In this case it is green, it is the class and the product. because in this case the repository should of course be product. And that's basically it. So we don't need to make this generic at all. So this iProduct repository, which is a very specific one, it belongs to the product. This doesn't really need to be generic. But when we inherit from iRepository, then well, we will have all the contracts that we would have to implement. And let me just build this this one, because I'm not sure why don't I have errors here. Why don't I have errors here? Because if let me go to, where is it? Sorry. So we built the domain. Sorry, let's build the DAL, because this is where I would expect errors. Yeah, and of course we have errors because why do we have errors? Because right now we don't really implement this iProduct repository. Why? Because right now this iProduct repository actually inherits all the methods that we have defined in iRepository, and you know that we have changed a lot of things here. So here we would have to also adjust our repository to this one, and here it would be, what we would need to do is create it would be not create product, but we implement this create async. Here it would be the delete async. Now errors should be, and here we have an return enumerable of product, and we would simply have to delete this one. Get all async. Then we would have to get product by ID. Just take the product out of this this method name. And of course here what we also have that we have inside is an ID. Okay, let's go further, and yeah, here we have to update this also. Okay, let's when we update the product, then it won't be called update product but update async. Okay, what did I press once again? I said I have a strange things happens to me that I keep on pressing. Okay, and of course then we have to change all the things that also in the controller, because here we want to get all products async, but here we just have to use get all async. And then we should have here, it's not get product by ID async, but it's get by ID async. And here let's then yeah, that here should be okay. Now for create product, once again we have create async. Okay, and everything should be fine. Then for the update, once again we don't have an update product but an update async, just update. And then for the delete, we shouldn't have the delete product, but it is a delete async. And right now it seems that all our errors magically disappeared. So yeah, let's try to rebuild the entire solution, see if everything is okay. If we should have some errors, then well, we would get them right now when we're rebuilding the solution. But we see that all three projects build successfully, so everything should be fine right now. And before we go any further, let me just shortly run this API. And I just want to do a get and make sure that we're still able to get products, because yeah, we don't have any errors in code right now. But if we can't get products from the database, then well, we still have a bug. So let's just briefly test this. Okay, the console, I guess it's running already. So let me bring up Postman and let's get some products, and hopefully that should work. So sending request, and we have here a 200 okay, and we still see our products, our three products, which is great. So yeah, it seems that that this works right now. And let's close the application right now. We don't really need it, and let's go back to our repositories. So once again, we have implemented a generic iRepository class where we have defined all the methods that do we have unit tests? No, we don't have unit tests so far. We'll certainly add unit tests at a certain point, but at least from my point of view, for this stream right now, this is really not something that I would like to dwell on right now, because as I said, this is more targeted to an audience of beginner developers. And if we make unit tests and want to unit test our repositories, then we have to well, touch a lot of very important stuff, because we would have to make some virtual methods in the startup class. We would have to talk about how to mock repositories, because what's the difference between integration tests and unit tests, and so on. So for now, we won't do any unit tests. But of course, in any real project, unit tests would be very, very important, and it would be actually the only right way to really test the application. Of course, except then for manual testing in the later phases of development. But yeah, let's now go here. So all the methods, all these methods that are essentially the same, like get all the products, get by ID, create, update, and delete. So we have implemented them in this iRepository, and then when we create the specific repositories, we actually just inherit or implement, or say, yeah, we inherit the iRepository interface, and suddenly we provide here the product, because we are here in the product repository. So the T actually that we provide is a product in this case. So in this iCustomer repository, then what we would provide is here, we will say that it inherits iRepository, but in this case it would be a customer. So in this case, the T would be a customer. And right now, that a very maybe important or nice thing to notice is that right now, if we look through our code, we actually see or feel maybe that it really doesn't smell anymore. So we don't have any code smells. We have managed to get rid of them. So right now we have this iRepository, and then we have this, I would say, customer or more specific repositories. But you might ask, because right now our iCustomer repository is actually empty, so this interface doesn't add anything by herself. And this iProducts repository, it's exactly the same thing. It's totally empty. And yes, it is empty, but here comes the very interesting part. Besides these methods that are common for all repositories, in all applications that you will build, these repositories will have also a lot of functionality that is very specific to the entity that they work with. And here we can go here to this customer, and let's just think about what we want to implement in our application. So we have a customer, if we go back to our models, and our customer has an iCollection or a list, let's call it for now a list, of contact details. So this means that when I update a customer, or even when I create a customer, I can maybe create the customer or update the customer without touching this idea of contact details. So in this case, what I would need maybe is a way to also, or to expose some behavior, some methods that would allow me to perform some operations very specific on these contact details. So this is why in this iCustomer repository, I could have methods like, for instance, let's make it also a task. And what would be a task of, let's for now say it's a task of contact detail. And it would be here, for instance, insert contact detail. And what we would need here is we would need an int that represents a customer ID and the contact detail that we want to add. To not make it very long here, I will just name it CD. This is really not the best practice. This is basically named after contact detail. It's the initials. So once again, this is not really a best practice, but I just don't want to make this line very, very long. Okay, I see that there is you're still repeating only the implementation of customer and product repositories. Yes, that is true, because what you say is that we should maybe also create a repository that is generic, so not only the interface but also the generic repository itself. And I guess you're right, we could do that, and maybe we should really look into it right after we go through this idea about I would say very specific behavior in specific repository interfaces. So yeah, we have here once again we have this generic iRepository where we have all those 4 very common operations that we basically or we virtually do on all the entities. But then we have, in this case of customer, there are some very specific things that we want to do, like for instance, as we see here, insert a contact detail. This is because we should be able to add or remove or to however manipulate a customer's contact details without the need to manipulate the entire customer. So that would be very, very specific behavior. And then we would have maybe a task of I don't know, a bool, let's make it like that, and we would have here delete contact details, and here is in this delete contact details we would have, what we would need here is an int in order to make sure that we are able to identify everything correctly. We would have an int customer ID, or so we need the ID of the customer, and we need the ID of the contact detail, CD ID, so contact detail ID. I would say that. And right now I guess that this is all the information that we really need to delete a contact detail, but we would probably, what have I pressed right now again? But in order to proceed, I guess one other thing that we could do is task of it would be probably once again bool, or no, I would maybe return a contact detail in this case, or no, let's make it bool, because it's the same that we did also for other operations. And here we have here, for instance, update contact details. Here what we would need to have is a customer ID and the updated contact details. Contact detail, and it would be an updated CD from contact detail. And of course I still have to type correctly, because otherwise, guess what, Visual Studio will say that I'm writing bad code. So yeah, we have then insert contact detail, delete contact detail, update contact detail, and I guess that that should basically be it. Is this a purely a sample project, or do you have an actual shop you want to make? No, this is a sample project, so it's not an actual shop that I want to make. And the whole idea of this stream, what I usually stream on Mondays, is to get and start this, to build this API from scratch, having in mind or targeting developers that are, I would say, at the beginning stages of their careers. So that they can simply better understand how ASP.NET Core is supposed to work, how Entity Framework Core works, and so on. So it's targeted to a more beginner audience. But if you want, I also have another stream. It's still here, but it's on Wednesday, starting at the same time, where I do, once again, it's a sample project, but it's a social network. We build it following domain-driven design principles and patterns, and that one is a little bit more complicated. The reason why I want to say this is because not everything that we actually see here is actually a best practice. Right now, for me, it's important to just understand really the basic concepts on how things work. So in real production applications, a lot of things might be implemented just a little bit different, but this is, from my point of view, a starting point for any junior developer or that wants to go to a development interview. If you really understand everything that we built here, then I guess for the junior role you would pretty much have a very good chance to be hired. So that's actually what I aim for. Also, let's also write something here. Thanks. Thank you very much for being here. Okay, so I guess maybe just let me know if you think that I missed something. So when it comes to these contact details, what we can do is insert a new contact detail, we can delete a contact detail, and we can update the contact details. But when we want to update, we just want to say we delete a contact detail, so we delete just one, we don't delete many. Okay, thank you very much. And then we have this once again update contact detail, and I would also say that maybe the best thing to do here is not to name this delete contact details, but maybe to remove, because we just want to remove it from a list, from a collection of contact details. And here maybe not insert but add. So I guess that that would be it. A real thing. I said maybe earlier today in the stream, it was just an idea that I really had while streaming, is that we will maybe build a front end for this API, and we'll build it in Blazor, because well, Blazor is a very cool thing that I really like very much. And I guess it would be very interesting and challenging to create a single page application front end in C# in .NET for this API that we're actually building here right now. But first we'll have to have like the building blocks for the API. Okay, now yeah, I guess the point what I wanted to make here is to understand that here, for instance, in this iCustomer repository, I have some very specific behavior to the customer that I can still add. So each class that would implement this iCustomer repository now would have, of course, to implement all the methods in iRepository of customer, and it will also have to implement all the methods here. So the methods, the behavior that is really specific only for the customer. And we could do it exactly the same for the product, only that I really don't know right now, or I don't find any behavior that we can add here in the iProduct repository that would be very specific for repository. But I guess that would maybe later we have some few ideas about what we can add here and how we can interact with products, because maybe we just want to, I don't know, change the supplier or something like that, and that would be something that would be a behavior very specific to the products, and we will add that here. But we'll get that we'll get to that maybe a little bit later. So guess it would be a real thing, but not used for real. Yeah, of course, it's difficult to stream things that you actually do for real, because you know, those are things that you do for real, and the customers that you are working for, or even if you build for your own, you really don't just want everybody to see what you're building, because then, well, if somebody wants to hack you, or I don't know, then you basically have all the information about your real product out there on the internet, and I guess that's not really a good idea. So this is why no streamer will ever really stream a project that he will really put it in production. Probably it will be nice to stream how one can make Razor class libraries to be used in Blazor apps like charts, grids, dropdowns. Yeah, and I don't know, probably you missed that, but on yesterday I had a stream that was not according to my schedule, but it's because I was very excited, or I am still very excited about Blazor. So I streamed about Blazor, and we created a very basic Blazor application talking to a Star Wars API. So we just want to build that application out and create like a visual Star Wars wiki only in Blazor. And in that case, we will probably also get into things like, okay, how we do things like that, like class libraries. And maybe in one of the streams where we talk about Blazor, I can showcase you something that I did in Blazor, I guess a few months ago, when it was not in full production. But what I did was a chessboard component that wraps basically a JavaScript library, that chess.js, and yeah, it uses full Blazor and JavaScript interoperability in Blazor, and exposes that as a Razor class library. So I can simply export it or build it as a NuGet package, import it in another Blazor application, and reuse that chessboard. So yeah, maybe we'll look into that when we stream about Blazor. Thank you very much for the idea. Okay, let's go right now maybe one step further. So as I said, for the product repository, I don't think that we would need anything else. Just a second, because I need something to drink here. Sorry for that. So then you said something that we still have some code smell here, and you pinpointed that the problem that we have is that we still repeat code in the repositories itself, so in the implementations. And of course you are fully right. So if we have implemented this generic repository, then maybe what we should also do right now is well, go one step further and eliminate our code smell also from here. So where are we? Where are the implementations? For now we have only that where is it? Why don't I find it? Product repository. So yeah, right now the problem is that okay, we see that each time we want to do something here, like getting products, we have context, products, add product, and so on. So we see that basically this is the same code, and if we implement right now that customer repository, that would actually look pretty much the same. With the only difference being that what we have here in products, well, that would so only the DB set would change. So instead of having context products, we would have context customer or customers, and then add, and we add the customer. So it would essentially be everything exactly the same, but the only difference would be the DB set, and that's it. So this is another thing. So this is one other sign that hey, we can surely improve this and write some better code. Sorry, and try to implement here a generic repository, like also the implementation of it. So yeah, let's basically do it in that case. What we will do here is in these repositories we will add a new class, and we'll call this class repository, or let's rename it, because we usually call this type of classes like something base repository. Because yes, I want to rename it everywhere in the code, because usually this is the base repository from which all our repositories will inherit. So let's make it public. But we can even make it abstract theoretically, so it's not necessary that we should make it public. Okay, and then what we should do here is we should simply make this inherit. Of course, we should make it a repository first. So with the repository, as we can see, the important part is that we need to pass in the eShop DB context and assign it, of course, to a private field so that we can reuse it. So it's exactly the same thing that we would need also to add here. So let me create a constructor. So probably should be abstract, so nobody makes it by mistake. Yeah, that's correct. I totally agree with you. Let's make it abstract then. So here what we would need, however, is still a private and it wouldn't be this time read only, because we might need to make, or no, we don't actually need to make changes to the eShop DB context. eShop DB context, and let's name it context. And here what we need to have here is an eShop DB context. And here, of course, we assign this to the field. And yeah, that's pretty much it for now. And let's make it also inherit. But you know that here, if we make it inherit from iRepository, then we should also have to provide yeah, we make it generic. let's try this. So it would be a base repository of T, and it implements iRepository of T. So what is wrong? It's wrong that it probably doesn't implement the interface right now. So what we would have to do, of course, is implement it. So let's go here and implement the interface. And here we see that we have all this type of methods. First one is the create async, and we have here public async. We should make all these methods async, and this would be the create one. And I guess here we can simply just copy from here and just adapt only the things that we have different. So let's copy what we have here and we put it in this space. It's create async. It also has the async keyword. It returns a task, so I guess it should be correct. The only thing that we should the only problem right now, okay, is that I can't really we can't really use the DB set, but here on the context it would be I guess we could simply do add, and here we say T, and here is not product but it's entity right now, and this would okay, no, this doesn't work. Let me see. Begin tracking of a given entity, and here the type T must be a reference type in order to use it as a parameter in T entity. Okay, good, then we can maybe see where T inherits from our class, and that should do it right now. Of course we don't have a semicolon at the end. Okay, so right now we have context add, and we see that okay, we want to add this entity. Name can be simplified, but why? But okay, if we don't specify the entity, how does it really know what type of entity this is? Because it has the DB context and it looks for it. Tracking of a given entity and other reachable entities that are already here. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, of course I know from T, but yeah, yeah, I guess that should be okay, but it probably will find the DB set, the corresponding DB set of it, so yeah, that shouldn't be a problem. So we add this entity, and then we do the save changes, and then we return the entity that we just added. And maybe you know, but I just want to specify again. As said, when we work with the DB context, this add method also has an async version, but the async version is basically used for something totally different. When we do context add, actually nothing is written to the database. It is also this mentions here, it only begins tracking this entity, but it doesn't really do a round trip to the database. So this is why we don't really have to await this add, but we only have to await the save changes. That's an important thing, and I saw a lot of times using the add async method, but that is actually not correct, because it loads it adds some performance overload that is actually not needed here right now. Okay, then let's go further, and we have this delete method, and here is delete async. Let's once again just copy it from here, and we'll adjust that in our base repository to reflect the fact that we have a generic repository right now. My mouse doesn't seem to want to work anymore correctly. What happens? So I have to invest in a new mouse, I guess, but we'll do that, no problem. So we have a delete async method. Here what we need is actually an entity, and here we say that it's not a product. We don't actually want products anymore because it's generic, and here it's a first or default, and I guess that of course we have to make this async. Sorry, I totally missed that. And right now this first or default, what is the problem? Generate it says that it has it right now we have a problem that we don't exactly know where to look, but we can have maybe let's see, context, what do we have here? It's attach, change tracker, but we don't need a change tracker. Customers databases. Right now we don't we can't really see the DB set, and here we want to look for an entity. Let's no, it's entry. No, it's not okay. Maybe we should we have this find method here. It's find and find async, and what it does here, finds an entity with the given primary key values if an entity with the given primary key value is being tracked. Okay, so I guess we can't use the first or default. Yeah, find. Yeah, that's what I was looking right now. I was not sure that that this first or default is not there anymore if we use this generic, but we can say here with find async. Okay, but then you would need to know what the T has in ID. Yeah, of course. But let us maybe try it this way. So it would be a find async. But once again, here we don't know exactly what type we have here actually. We could simply look for something like that, but in this case it would be ID. So I guess that would no, they cannot find simply here. We have to specify the, I don't know, maybe we specify T. Cannot convert lambda expression type object because it is a delegate type. Okay, what I think that the find async, with the find async we don't need to, actually it's different, we just to provide the ID. So that that would be it. And then code context, in this case it would be simply remove as we did earlier, and it would remove the entity. And then it would be context save changes async. That would be okay. Actually find your pass it in an object. So you mean that we should pass in an object? Probably, or maybe, but let's try first without passing in an object. I really wouldn't like to hold an object that I really don't need it, only for the ID. We'll see if that works. We will test it afterwards. Then we have get all. Okay. Sorry. Let me then just go to this iProduct repository. No, sorry, not the I, but the product repository. And then we have this get all, and that should be easy to implement, I guess. But of course, once again, my mouse is not playing nice today. Sorry for that. So here in this get all, we would simply then say here return await, and of course we have to make this also async, and here we'll have await, and here we actually need a list. Context, what do we have on this context? Do we have a, we have a get type. Here we can't just really do a find. We just this set creates a DB set. That doesn't really help at all. Update range. So yeah, here that's not something that we cannot, that we can simply configure a wait. That doesn't really help us a lot. When we want to return the list, I guess we would need a different thing here. Yeah, but set t it creates basically if we go on this set, we see that it creates a Microsoft Entity Framework core and then it specifies the t entity. So that can be used to query for all instances. Oh, you might be right, I guess here. A set, but then set t. That's a method, yeah. But then this, what does it return? Set t. It's a Microsoft Entity Framework core DB set. It creates a DB set, but this doesn't really help. It doesn't really help, I guess, in this case. Let me, sorry for that, but let me maybe just search here very quickly. If core generic repository get all. This is what we actually want right now. And let's say the very first one, how did they solve that problem? Okay, set up the DB context, that's okay. Then configure services, that's okay, we don't need that. Building the generic repository, this is the iRepository interface, and then let's start implementing it. This is the generic repository, and iQueryable get all. It's DB context. Oh, it's set. It returns the set. Yeah. So you were right. You were right. Okay, and it in that example is just as no tracking. So yeah. But I remember when I implemented at a certain point a generic repository. But what is the problem here right now? Default tracking behavior. Get a waiter. So as no tracking, does it have an async version of that? Not contain on definition, it doesn't have that, but we should definitely, but I'm really not sure, because if add find attach find async first or default from SQL get type ignore query include load, it just loads something. I don't also need the but we had it as a toList async and it didn't work. Or why didn't it work? Because it was initially with two, we had it like this initially, or am I wrong? Because this is how we had it initially, I guess, with toList async. That was how that ended. Yeah, whatever. Let's go then one step further and implement this get by ID async. Let's go to the product repository and see how this is implemented here, and we can go here at the base repository and see exactly how we want to implement it. So here where we have this delete, we have this find async of t, and in this case we should also have the exact same type of, okay, we should have the no products, and here we would have find async, and we should look after the ID, and we should also specify maybe what to find, and it would be in this case the t. and we of course need to make this one async because it's not a synchronous method. And last but not least, sorry, the update, and let's also take it from here. Here we do a lot of stuff, I guess, but that should be fine. Let's go and see what we can do here. So updating, it would be also an async one. Async task of bool, of course. Then what we have, a t updated entity. So we would have to change this because updated product here. So first of all, we just have to find a product, and that could be then actually like we did it previously. So it would be, but we have to delete everything here. It would be find async, and we specify that it should be of type t, and we should specify the updated entity.id. So it should have an ID, I guess. Or no, now it really doesn't know that the updated entity should have an ID. Yeah, because in all other parts we basically we specified the ID, but I guess we can't really go over this, but we will have to also request here the ID of that certain entity, because otherwise we won't be able to find it. So let's make it let's have it like int ID, and of course we would have to change this also in the repository. So it's a repository. It was in the update, I guess, and yeah, in that case we would need an ID, int ID. And right now we would have a way to really find it, because we would we will do here like ID, but in this case all the things that we did actually previously just to assign the updated. The problem is here right now that we get back a t product, and what we actually can do, because this should be what we can do here is we can maybe just say that that would be an entity, and here I guess we could say simply, I don't know, maybe entity equals updated entity, and it should take all the properties, I guess. What's the problem? In that case we just and of course we have here entity. This is what we want to update, but of course here it's not on products, but it's update of t, I guess should work. But they say that okay, I don't have to specify the type. That works for me, no problem. And the idea is that well, we have this, I don't know, did I misspell something? And I guess I did. Entity and entity y. Because here we get this entity, we get it from the database, and then we say I don't know why this is grayed out. I think it shouldn't be. It's unnecessary assignment. Okay, let me, I don't know what, huh? I'm not sure. Okay, just the entity, updated entity. Yeah, it could work, but yeah, let's keep it this way for now. Good. And mark it as modified. It be context, and then just setting it, not actually changing the properties. Okay. Setting it, not actually changing the properties. Yeah, but it's actually, yeah, right. So here in this place is actually not changing the properties, but yeah, I guess you need to, yeah, entity, but that's not the entity that we get back. It's actually not yeah, I'm changing the reference. That's correct. But how do we actually, let's look back here. How did they implement this update method? I'm just curious. So it says t entity update. I just updates the entity like that, but yeah. But I want to maybe be able to do some validation on that. So it's not that it's not that I don't think that that it should be that simple, I guess. But yeah, let's do it like they say here. So it's then well, way easier, because it would be then return would be then context dot update, and I would pass here the updated entity and update async. I have to pass in, or no, it was with set t, and then update async. It was like that, and of course we would have to await that, or no, we have to await only when we save changes, so we don't return this actually right now. Okay, what is the, okay, set is a method. Update async, what is the problem right now? Does not contain a definition of update as async. Because as said, yeah, I just talked about this some minutes ago. Here we don't actually do anything in the database, so actually we don't have an async update method. So what we have to do right now is context save changes async, and this is asynchronously. Yeah. Yeah, I guess let's see, but the idea is how can you really do validation here? Because if you, or maybe you don't need to do the validation in the repository, you would have some validators that you would pass that updated entity before you pass it to the repository. That could maybe work. Yeah, that could work, of course. But let's try to wire things up here right now. So what we have here is this base repository that is right now fully implemented, and what we can do here is go to the product repository right now, and virtually all the methods that we have here can be actually deleted, and instead we will simply inherit the base repository. And it would and here the iProduct repository, it says that yeah, I have to, because the idea is that that I still want to inherit from iProduct repository and not from iRepository directly. Yeah, but I can inherit also from the base repository. I can inherit from one class, so that is no problem. And then iProduct repository says that yeah, but then the iRepository, I don't want to do so. This product repository implements this base repository. What I have to do here is also pass the context to the base, so that is one thing. And what I actually don't need anymore right now, I don't need the context here, because I have it from the base class. But here it says that using the generic type base repository, and of course it should be of product. because this is an iProduct repository. Yeah, and right now I guess that yeah, the base repository of product, yeah, that's correct. That was the problem. It was a generic one. And right now the idea is that in this product repository, so we don't have any method actually, because right now it implements or it inherits all the methods that we have in this base repository. So where we have this get, set, update, delete, whatever, all the methods, and each repository that we will implement will already have these methods. So this is why in product repository right now we actually don't need to implement anything else, because also the iProduct repository, as you can see, is empty. But right now I guess that it is the big moment, and let's try to wire all these things up and see exactly how that works. Let's briefly look in the startup file. Here in configure services we add this iProduct repository, which is a product repository, which in turn will get in the DB context, and I guess that we should be okay for that one, so we shouldn't do any changes here, I guess. Let's run the application and let's be surprised. Of course there are some errors. Let's see what errors do we have. Okay, so there is no argument. Okay, of course we have here in update we have the updated product, and I guess this is something that that we need to change back, because I changed it here in the base repository. I said that where is the update? It's at the end, and we don't need the ID anymore. We just need the entity. We also have to change this in this repository class, of course, and yeah, we don't need this ID anymore. We just need the entity. And right now that error should be gone. So let's run this application again, and let's hope that it will work better this time. Will you be going into Unity of Work? Unit of Work? No. That's in my opinion beyond this stream, or beyond what I would like the target audience for this stream to be. I know that there is a really complex discussion around unit of work and repositories, and do we really need them if we have Entity Framework Core. So I'm aware of all that type of things, but I guess that's not something that I would like to go into in this stream. Okay, let's try to get some products here, and let's hope for the best. So right now at least we got the products. So we got all three products. That's cool. Let's try to post a product. Then I really need your help right now. What product should we create? I really don't have any idea. So we have a Samsung Galaxy, we have an iPhone, we have a Dell XPS laptop, but what else do we need in our eShop? What else do we need? We're streaming here, I guess. So for streaming we surely need a microphone and Junicos. Okay, let's do that. And I would also write that would be the best product. I don't know, unfortunately we have also to set a price for you. I know that it's not okay, but we have to do it because it's actually required, and we have model validation. But if we set a price, let's set a higher one. Let's make it 1,000, whatever. Okay, and yeah, let's see. So what, it's 201 created, and it says that it's created, so it should be fine, and it should have the ID 2002. So if we go for get for ID, and in this case we also check this method, and here we have 200. Okay, and yeah, we received the response. And now let's make an update. Let's make an update here in the body, let's change the price. Actually, let's make it 500 and just update. And I'm really curious about this update, if it works, because that's the trickier part. And it says 500 internal server error. But yeah, entity framework DB updated. An error occurred while updating the entries. See the inner exception for that. The update statement conflicts with the foreign key constraint. Yeah, that was what I was afraid of, because database Twitch eShop tabled in supplier in column ID. Yeah, because in this case the problem is it also tries to update the supplier at the same time, and the supplier is actually null. So yeah, let me go to our controller right now. Of course, this is something that we will have to take into consideration probably for the next stream, but I guess that's also a very important thing to know, that when you implement these generic repositories, then you you just get a lot of stuff that you have to think about, and that previously just basically worked. So we are here in this update product, and update product ID, and we create an but why? No, this is something that we have to change. The ID is not something that we need to. No, the ID. But the ID we actually get it from there, so that shouldn't bother me at all, because the ID we get it actually from the URL, so the ID would be correct. In that case, so entity framework should be able to do some things about that. And we have a name, we have a description, we have a photo URL, we have a price, but we actually don't have a supplier. We actually don't have a supplier. Yeah, it's not setting because it's not here, but in that case, for instance, we could maybe try to do something like updated product dot supplier equals new supplier, and in this case I don't know, in this case we at least set a supplier. It will of course have all the default values, but the problem is, and this is something that of course it's something that we can learn from it, is that when we do that, we would have to create different methods to work with suppliers. So we would need maybe to have in the repository different ways to work with the supplier, just like what we want to do with the contact details. Let me try again right now. So it would be a put on that ID. And here we're getting right now 200 OK. So right now, theoretically, if we run a get on the same ID, we should see the difference. So the price was changed, of course, and then the supplier is null. It was also previously null, so that doesn't really bother me at all. But yeah, right now it seems that let's try to delete, of course. So we would like to also delete the product with this ID, and 200 OK. Let's get it. And right now we should get a not found, 404 not found. That's okay. So this means that our validation is working fine. And if we get all the products, then we see that third product is not there anymore. So yeah, I guess that right now we have also some basic stuff to think about for our next episode, because we would need definitely to implement a way, or to find a way how we can separately update a supplier. Because well, when we update a product, we don't necessarily want to also update the supplier. So we just want to be able to update the product and the supplier in total separate ways. And I guess that that's simply that's not very difficult to implement, but I guess we would have to make some nested resources, so that we have URLs like, I don't know, update, like I don't know, it would be something like API / products / ID /suppliers / supplier ID, and then we update only the supplier. and then we update separately all the products. So you see, well, you could do some fancy stuff like abstract repo defines an abstract mapper that maps the properties using a function from the real repo. Well, I'm not sure I'm really getting what you say here, but sounds like something interesting. But so you say some fancy like abstract repo that defines an abstract mapper that maps the properties using a function from the real repo. You mean okay, I know, I get it. Yeah, I guess that would be one way to do that, but as I said, I guess in a regular API to be really to conform to the REST principles, I think that we should use nested resources. So when we have products and suppliers, we shouldn't, when we update a product, we shouldn't touch the supplier at all. And we have, or we need to have different methods to update only the supplier. That would be also, yeah, it might be just not 2 keys. That's correct. But also we have to be adherent to the REST principles. And here the best way to proceed according to these REST principles would be to use this idea of nested resources, so that we have something like product/id/supplier/supplier ID. And when we run a put on that URL, on that endpoint, we then update the supplier only. And when we update the product, we just want to update the product only. And then we'll have to take care in the repository, in the base repository, how we could try to update the product without also updating the supplier for it. Yeah, but we'll look into that for the next time, I guess. So I guess it doesn't really make a lot of sense to start working on something else right now, but for next time at least we'll be sure that we will have to implement a controller we have to implement the repository for our where is it iCustomer repository, because we have to implement also these specific methods. Where are you working? I'm not sure I understand. Where are you? What does? Sorry, I may be just be too stupid. What's the IRL? Okay, I'll look for the answer just in a second. So my idea is that next time we will have to implement these methods. We will have to implement a customer repository that implements these methods, and we'll have also to implement a customer controller, so that we will be able to work with customer, and there for the customer we'll also have this idea of nested resources, because from the customer URL we need to have a different endpoint just to work or to update the contact details. So it would be exactly the same principle. So I would try that. So yeah, in real life. So I would say that next time I guess we will have to also solve this problem, like how do we update a product without the need to update also the supplier and so on. So yeah, I guess we will definitely face that. Okay, so yeah, in real life I'm actually a software developer. I'm developing stuff for real, I would say. Yeah, and I'm also delivering trainings, a lot of trainings on, I don't know, .NET, Microsoft Azure, generally stuff that I work with. Also Angular, though with Angular it's a little bit of time that I didn't work so far. But yeah, that's what I usually do. I'm a software developer, and yeah, I worked on some very cool projects, I would say. I had luck to work for customers that were always trying to innovate, and they were always open for the new technologies. Even if they had their legacy applications, they were always in search of how can they adapt their application or transform their application in to be more modern in certain ways. So yeah, that's what I usually do. I write code and I deliver trainings, basically. Yeah, okay, guys, I guess that would be it for today. I just want to thank you very much for watching. It was really a very pleasant surprise that you were all here and that we had this kind of discussion. let's also say a thank you here. Also, I don't know if all of you are subscribers or sorry followers, but please, if you want to keep to be updated or notified whenever I go online, then just please follow me. That would be really important to gather a community around this stream, and maybe to, as said, to learn together, to go together through different stuff here, and have overall a learning experience. Yeah, also on Wednesday, if you also scroll down on my channel, you will see a schedule. So I have basically two things that I stream regularly and according to the schedule, which is on Monday, which is today, this creating an API, but trying to keep things very simple. And then on Wednesday, I'm building a social network, again from scratch, but using this domain-driven design principle and patterns. And I also do some other streams occasionally. As said, for instance, yesterday I streamed working on a Blazor application with Star Wars. So it was pretty cool because it just tried to make a visual wiki of the Star Wars world, I would say. So yeah, I might go online from time to time with stuff that is not on schedule, and I also tend to sometimes go online when I play chess, but I'm not really good at chess, so I'm losing a lot. But if you want to have some fun watching me lose, then of course you are definitely invited. But it's just fun for me. It's just relaxing to maybe play some chess in the evening or at night before I go to sleep. And yeah, why not stream it? As I said, people might have fun watching me lose. So yeah, that's something. For instance, even today I might be streaming some chess. I don't know, maybe I guess in half an hour or something. Again, thank you very much for watching. It was really a pleasure to have you here, and I hope to see you back then on Wednesday for the social network. Really have a good night if you are from Europe. Have a good day or afternoon if you are from the US. And I guess that if you are from Asia or Australia, I don't know exactly what to say because it's probably the middle of the night right there. So good morning maybe, or something like that. So yeah, thank you very much once again. Have a great day. Bye.